Props. The props I used in my film are the usual classic props you would find in any film noir film. I wanted to keep the classic props again to emphasise that this is based on the noir genre. The use of cigarettes and alcohol in my film is subtle, as the modern day society there are less people that smoke. Because of this, I only chose to have the main protagonist smoking, and no one else. I was really inspired by the film Detour, as the main protagonist seems to be constantly smoking. However, drink is much more common. It's much more common thing to have in modern day society, which is why I also wanted the femme fatale drinking wine a lot, like the femme fatale in Double Indemnity. Mirrors are also used a lot in film noir classics, such as the ones in Detour when he sees his eyes in the car mirror. I also use mirrors in my film to give the film the noir feel and to give the film a sense of disconnection and uneasiness. I also chose to use guns in my final scene. The use of guns in film noir were a typical convention. If we look at the gun scene in Double Indemnity, it is very similar to my final gun scene as well. We can see the way the two characters are talking to each other. In my film, the director is having a conversation with the main protagonist. They both get shot just like in Double Indemnity. However, again, I put a slight twist on the end of my film, which gives it a more modern edge. The fact that the woman comes out on top is a much more modern way to end a noir film, as back in the 1940s it was a man's world, and women were always less superior to men. A sense of doom. The sense of doom is a classic film noir style. Like in the film Detour again, we see him after his story at the start, and he looks very sad and washed up, showing us that his story does not end well. This is the same in my film, as in the first few moments we can tell by the mise-en-scene of the man laying on the floor and the narration over the top, this story is not going to end well. Camera angles. I decided it would be a good idea to look into the camera angles used in many film noirs, and I found that the low angle and the Dutch angle was the main used angles. I used these angles in my films to show power, status, and dangerous scenes. Music. The music that I used in the film wasn't quite the classic film noir, because it was a neo-noir. I didn't think the jazzy music of a film noir would really fit. The start of my film opens with a very slow piano string music, which is probably the most neo-noir type of music in my whole film, which I use in several scenes to give us a sense of doom and sadness. I also used a much more upbeat kind of music to introduce the character of Ebony Stone. I felt that this music also created a slight playful tension, and tension was a massive characteristic of film noir. Short films. I looked into some short films such as The Black Hole and The Leader of the Pack. I found that they all escalated very quickly because there was only a short amount of time to fit the plot in. As my film was only 5 minutes long, I had to think of a way I could still tell the story and that the audience would still understand it. So I decided the narration was the best way forward. Short films also only use about 2 to 3 different characters and locations. I only used 3 main characters and 4 locations, which is the classic short film convention.